Dark intelligence isn't something you study. It isn't something you learn in school or read in a book. It gets built. In the moments you got betrayed and didn't break. In the moments you stayed quiet when everyone expected you to explode. In the moments you watched, calculated, and waited while everyone else reacted. Most people don't know they have it. They just know they've always felt slightly different from everyone around them. If that's you, keep watching. Because these 10 signs are going to feel uncomfortably accurate. Sign 1. Being underestimated has never really bothered you. You walk into rooms and people make assumptions. They assume you're less experienced, less dangerous, less aware than you actually are. And here's what separates you from everyone else. You let them. Most people spend enormous energy correcting false impressions. They over-explain, overperform, and overshare, all to manage what other people think. They're exhausted by it. You figured out something that takes most people decades, if they figure it out at all. An underestimated person is an unguarded person, and an unguarded person tells you everything. While they're busy dismissing you, you're watching, learning their patterns, clocking their weaknesses, mapping how they think. By the time they realize they misjudged you, the moment has already passed. The decision has already been made, and the outcome has already been shaped. You didn't correct the impression, you used it. That is not passivity. That is predatory patience, and it is one of the rarest forms of intelligence on this planet. Sign 2. You never fully explain yourself, and you've stopped feeling guilty about it. You don't feel a compulsive need to justify your decisions. When someone asks why you did something, you give them enough, not everything. When someone questions your choice, you consider their perspective, but you don't collapse under the pressure of their confusion. Most people feel an almost physical discomfort when they're not fully understood. They keep explaining, keep clarifying, keep softening until the other person approves. You outgrew that. Maybe painfully, maybe slowly, but you outgrew it. And here's what that silence protects. It protects your strategy. It protects your next move. And more than anything, it protects your authority. There is a psychological law that says the less someone reveals, the more power they appear to hold. It isn't about being secretive. It's about understanding that mystery commands attention in a way that transparency never can. When you speak, people listen, because they know you don't speak unless it means something. Sign 3. You hear what people mean, not what they say. This one is different. This is the sign that truly separates dark intelligence from ordinary awareness. When someone talks to you, you're not just listening to their words, you're listening to the emotion underneath the words, the need underneath the emotion, the fear underneath the need. When a colleague says, "I just think we could have planned this better," you hear, "I feel like my input was ignored and I need to feel included." When a friend says, "No, it's fine, don't worry about it," you hear exactly what they actually mean. You've always done this, and it's made you feel slightly lonely because you're processing conversations on a layer that most people don't even know exists, but it also makes you extraordinarily powerful in any room. Because while everyone else is reacting to what was said, you're responding to what was meant. That is the foundation of genuine influence, not manipulation, genuine, deep influence, because people feel truly understood by you, and a person who feels understood will follow you anywhere. Sign 4. You become a different version of yourself with different people, and that's not fake. People have called you hard to read, maybe even inconsistent. What they don't understand is that you're not inconsistent. You're adaptive. You speak data with the analytical person. You speak emotion with the feeling person. You speak vision with the dreamer and practicality with the builder. You're not performing. You're calibrating. Here's the difference between manipulation and adaptation. Intention. A manipulator changes their face to get something from you. Someone with dark intelligence changes their frequency to actually connect with you. Think of water. Water takes the shape of any container, but it's still water. Its essential nature never changes. Your values don't shift. Your principles don't bend. Only your expression adapts. And that's not weakness. That is the highest form of social intelligence. The people who are the same with everyone aren't more authentic. They're just less effective. Sign 5. Your silence has weight that words never could. You've noticed something in conversations. When you go quiet, really quiet, the energy in the room shifts. People get uncomfortable. They start talking faster. They start filling the silence with things they hadn't planned to say. You didn't plan this. It just started happening. And then you realized your silence is louder than most people's words. Here's the psychology behind it. Silence, in most social situations, creates what researchers call an ambiguity vacuum. The human brain cannot tolerate unresolved ambiguity, so it fills it with confession, with explanation, with information it was never supposed to reveal. You never had to ask the right questions, you just had to stop answering. People with dark intelligence don't use silence as avoidance, they use it as architecture. They build the pause deliberately, and then they watch what falls into it. If you've ever said almost nothing in a conversation and walked away knowing more than the person who spoke the entire time, you already understand this instinctively. Sign 6. You're not afraid to lose things most people cling to. This one makes people around you uncomfortable. You've walked away from jobs that looked impressive, relationships that looked stable, opportunities that looked safe. And when you walked away, people called it reckless. They called it self-destructive. They called it throwing away something good. What they couldn't see was what you saw, that the cost of staying was higher than the cost of leaving, and that you valued your direction more than their approval of your decision. The deepest form of personal power is this: what you are not afraid to lose cannot be used against you. Most people are controlled entirely by their attachments. Their fear of loss makes them accept bad treatment, stay in situations that shrink them, and agree to things that violate who they are. When you release that fear, even partially, you negotiate from a completely different position than everyone else in the room. You don't need the deal. You'd like it. That difference is everything. Sign 7. You make decisions that look wrong from the outside, but always make sense later. You've made choices that people around you genuinely didn't understand, and you notice something. You couldn't always fully explain them either. Not because you hadn't thought them through, but because the thinking happened on a level that was hard to articulate. You were running a longer calculation than anyone else around you. You were accounting for variables they hadn't identified. You were thinking in outcomes, while everyone else was thinking in steps. Dark intelligence operates on a different time horizon. The ordinary mind asks, what happens next? The dark intelligence mind asks, what does this look like in 2 years? In 5 years, in the version of my life I'm actually building toward? That long-range thinking looks like stubbornness in the short term. It looks like bad judgment to people playing a shorter game, until the outcome arrives. And suddenly your mistake looks like a plan. Sign 8. You've never needed to win the argument, only the outcome. There are people in your life who think they've beaten you in arguments, and you let them think that, because you understood something early. Winning an argument and winning the situation are almost never the same thing. The person who has to win every debate is being controlled by their ego. An ego is the most expensive thing you can carry into any room that requires strategy. You ask a different question than most people. Not, am I right, but, does being right here actually move me toward what I want? Sometimes the answer is yes. Most of the time it isn't. So you let people have the point. You let them feel the win. And then you walk away with the outcome, quietly, without announcement, without needing anyone to acknowledge what just happened. That is outcome obsession in its purest form, and it is extraordinarily rare. Sign 9. Small talk drains you in a way you've never been able to explain. You've spent a lot of your life wondering if something is wrong with you. Every social situation that should feel easy, networking events, casual parties, surface-level conversation, leaves you exhausted in a way you can't quite articulate. Meanwhile, a 2-hour conversation with one person about something that actually matters, you leave energized. Here's what's actually happening. Your brain doesn't process social interaction at a surface level. It goes deeper automatically, reading micro-expressions, tracking emotional shifts, picking up on inconsistencies between what's being said and what's being felt. That is not a passive process. It is constant, unconscious, and it costs energy. Small talk is exhausting because your mind refuses to stay shallow. You're doing 10 times the processing in a casual conversation that most people do, and getting 1/10 of the intellectual return. That isn't social anxiety. That is a mind that is simply built for depth. And that depth, when pointed at the right people and the right problems, is genuinely rare. Sign 10. You were never taught this. You survived into it. Here's the thing about dark intelligence that no one tells you. It doesn't come from books. It doesn't come from seminars. It doesn't come from watching the right videos or following the right people. It comes from the moments that nearly broke you, the betrayals you didn't deserve, the rooms you were dismissed in, the times you trusted someone and paid for it, the times you stayed quiet because no one was ready to hear what you actually saw. Every one of those moments was teaching you something, not consciously, but deeply. How to read people before they show you who they are. How to protect yourself without becoming someone you don't recognize. How to move through a world that doesn't always play fair without becoming the thing you were protecting yourself from. You didn't learn dark intelligence, you earned it. And the fact that you watched this far, the fact that these signs felt less like new information and more like a description of something you've always known, that's not coincidence. That's recognition. Now here's what I want you to do. Don't drop an affirmation. Don't tell me you're a sigma or an alpha or any of that. Just tell me, which sign number stopped you? Which one made you sit back for a second? Comment that number, nothing else, just the number, because I want to see something. I want to see how many of you are carrying this kind of intelligence, quietly, without anyone knowing. And I want to tell you what that number says about how your mind actually works. If this video found you at the right moment, share it with one person. Not to show off, but because there is someone in your life who needs to understand themselves the way you just did. Stay sharp, stay quiet, and stay dangerous.